Hi everyone, I am Preeti and I'm excited to welcome you all in today's session on SQL Server for data analysis. Meet our speaker, Mr. Rajendra Jain. We are honored to have Mr. Rajendra Jain, Senior Director at PepsiCo, with us today. He brings around 20 years of expertise in advanced analytics, Gen AI, data science, and data engineering, Azure Data Factory, Databrick, and Synapse, leading the AI for BI journey, delivering dashboards for Fortune 500 clients, building data lake and modern analytics solution, mastery in SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, and big data. BI tools like SSAS, and more. Rajendra also built and led high-performing analytics team and frequently collaborates with senior global stakeholders. We also have a live Q&A, so feel free to drop your questions anytime in the Q&A tab. Let's make the session interactive and engaging. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Rajendra Jain. Over to you, Rajendra.
Yeah, thanks, Preeti. Hey everyone, good afternoon. So maybe let me do a quick introduction. So I'm Rajendra Jain, currently working as a senior director with PepsiCo, and with 21 years of experience, I lead a big team here of business intelligence and reporting, where we have a lot of people working into reporting, data engineering, which mainly uses SQL as the backend, right? And plus, recently we have been doing a lot of Gen AI projects for AI for BI work, right? There has been a lot of demand for AI for BI, which basically complements generative AI on top of BI to generate insights, and you can actually converse directly with your data, right? Both structured and non-structured. Prior to PepsiCo, I have spent 10 years with a consulting firm, Carney, priorly known as AT Carney. So there I had built a data science center of excellence team from scratch. So when I joined, I was a second employee, and when I left, I had a team of 100 plus people there as well. So in all, 21 years of experience, all the experience have been around databases, ETLs, BI, and now generative AI. And I've been doing a lot of stuff on almost all the RDBMS, right? Whether it is SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, Postgres. Read a lot of stuff and experience on big data RDBMS, which includes Synapse, uh, Azure, Databricks, Green Plum. I've been doing a lot of corporate trainings as well on a lot of these topics. So, yep. So, what we'll do is over the next 90 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through a few concepts of SQL Server, how we can basically use SQL Server on a day-to-day basis for a lot of data and analytics. I feel SQL is the bread and butter for any data and analytics. Even if you have a strong Python background, SQL is still a must, right? You can do a lot of magic using SQL, right? So I'll walk you through what SQL Server is, some nitty-gritties of SQL Server. Maybe we can take two or three real-time examples of using SQL in our life. Okay, so let's get started. I'll start sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
It is visible, sir.
Yeah. So SQL Server, first thing first, is an RDBMS, which means it's a relational database management system owned by a company called as Microsoft. We all use Microsoft in our day-to-day life. And then whenever you will hear about SQL Server, you always hear about two more databases, which are RDBMS, which is MySQL and Postgres. Why will people compare MySQL with and Postgres with SQL Server? Because those two are open source, where SQL Server is licensed. So if you are using SQL Server in your company, you'll have to pay a licensing fee to Microsoft. Whereas MySQL and Postgres are completely free of cost. So you'll always get that comparison. Even when you'll work on your projects and you'll ask to procure a SQL server, will be asked, why don't you use MySQL and Postgres, right? Because they are free of cost. So even SQL Server comes in different edition. We have Express Edition. Express Edition is actually free of cost, but it has a lot of limitations. Limitations are on the data size. You cannot have a database more than 10 GB processing power. It only can use one CPU to process your data. So you'll always have performance challenges with Express Edition. Then we have Standard Edition and Enterprise Edition. Enterprise Edition can basically leverage all the CUs on your machine And it gives you all the enterprise features as well, like clustering, replication, always on. All those high-end availability features are there in Express Edition. Sure, most of you would have heard the term RDBMS, which stands for Relational Database Management System. I'm not going to cover everything on what RDBMS is, right? But few things that you must know, right? So in RDBMS, no matter what data you're going to store, it's system data or user data, all the data will be stored in the form of tables, which means in the form of rows and columns. All the RDBMS are secured. So if I have stored my data in my SQL, you cannot access it till the time I give you permission. So it's highly secured. Anyone accessing the data needs to have credentials and also needs to have permissions. All RDBMS support one standard language, which is SQL, structured query language. That's where is the bread and butter of any data analytics, right? You can use SQL for pretty much any complex analysis nowadays. And all RDBMS supports transaction. So transaction has a property called as asset. And asset, it stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. So what is atomicity, right? Just to cover quickly, right? So if say I'm doing a transaction of 500 rupees from account A to account B, essentially this transaction will require two update statements. Updating account A to reduce the balance by 500 and updating account B to increase the balance by 500. Now both updates should run in the same transaction. So what if first update succeeds and the second update fails? If any of the update fails in this transaction, the entire transaction should get rolled back because no end user will accept that the amount got debited, but it never got credited, right? So people will start losing trust in the banking systems, right? Because of the RDBMS. So all RDBMS supports transaction, which through which they support atomicity. And likewise, we have consistency, isolation, and durability. Durability means you have to ensure that your data is durable. Once your data is stored, it should remain in the database forever until you delete that data. Durability is maintained by storing the data into a non-volatile storage, preferably on a hard disk. So some of the popular databases that you will heard in the market will be Oracle, still a leader in RDBMS, owned by Oracle, again licensed. SQL Server, that is what we are going to see over the 90 minutes. I'm going to do a lot of hands-on and real-time examples. DB2 is not that much used these days, but still one of the popular ones owned by IBM. Then, as I was saying, right, nowadays there are a lot of market players in the market which are providing big data RDBMS. Big data RDBMS means they provide you both massively parallel processing and distributed processing functionalities, right? Where you have multiple instances of servers running to process your data. It uses master and worker node concept. So Teradata is very popular. Greenplum owned by EMC Square. Then we have Snowflake, which is again very popular big data RDBMS these days. Then we have Redshift, which is on Amazon Cloud. Then we have another categories of databases which are NoSQL databases like MongoDB, Cassandra. These are all NoSQL databases. And as I said, right, we have open source RDBMS, which is Postgres, owned by the company called as Enterprise DB. And MySQL was taken over by Oracle almost like 10 years ago. So even though Oracle took over MySQL, they're still giving the community edition as open source, but they've added a lot of advanced features and they have now come up with a new edition of MySQL, which is Enterprise Edition, which is licensed by Oracle and you have to pay licensing fee if you want to use that. So, Preeti, I cannot see the chat when I'm sharing my screen. So, if in case anyone has any questions, better if they can ask, or maybe you can coordinate, right?
Yeah. Currently, we have only one question
Okay.
actually.
And I saw that it's not relevant to me, so I'm not getting into it. So, okay. So, few terminologies that we'll be using over the 90 minutes are data, basically information or fact. Database, which is collection of data. Database management system, it's a software to manage your data. We all use Excel from Microsoft or Google Sheet, right? Even Excel sheets or Google Sheets are basically a DBMS where we can manage our data. And RDBMS, it's basically a DBMS which where we can define our relationships, right? So I'm sure you all know what is a table, right? But just in case if someone is fairly new to RDBMS, a table is set of rows and columns. In this example, you can see this table has three columns and four rows, right? So the three columns are EID, name, and salary, and we have four rows here. In RDBMS term, a table is also called as an entity. So an entity is basically any real world object about which we can collect information. And rows, you will hear a term called as records for rows. And columns, a lot of people call columns as fields or attributes. So in RDBMS, we also use a concept called as constraints. So constraints basically means any type of restriction that you want to use to enforce integrity of data. What do you mean by integrity of data? Correctness and completeness of data, right? For example, if you have an employee table and you have an employee ID, you want to ensure that two employees cannot have the same employee ID, right? How would you do that? By enforcing employee ID as a primary key. So if you define any column as primary key, that column cannot have more than one value, unique value will be there. And plus employee ID cannot be null. So if you define employee ID as primary key, that column cannot have any null value. Likewise, you can define column as unique key, which means it will have only unique values, but it can also have null value. In SQL Server, a unique key allows only one null value. But in other RDBMS, a unique key can allow multiple null values. Then we have not null. If you define any column as not null, it means that column cannot have null values. Then we have check constraints. Using check constraint, I can define what range of values will be allowed or will not be allowed for a column. Let me do a quick practical on the check constraint. You all know what is the PAN number? So this is my SQL Server Management Studio, which is a client to connect to SQL Server. And I'm connected to a local instance on my laptop. And I've created a database by the name SQLDB. When I click on new query here, I can create my tables here. And let me show you a fairly simple example of a real-time implementation of a check constraint. So I want to use a check constraint to store only valid PAN numbers in a column. If you guys don't know what is a valid PAN number, a valid PAN number has first five characters as alphabets, next four characters will be a number, and last character will be an alphabet again. So example will be what? A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, A. So it is a valid number, valid PAN, right? But if you have something like A, 2, 3, B, C, D, E is not a valid PAN. How will we create a table to ensure that the column contains only valid PAN numbers? Let's see that. So I'm going to create a table, say create table employee underscore PAN. Employee ID is integer. I'm defining employee ID as my primary key. I'm creating employee name as my string column, say salary, which is end, right? And I'm going to store PAN number here. As you can see, it has how many characters? 10, right? So I can define the data type as char of 10 because it's a fixed length. And here I'm going to define a check constraint, right? I'll say check pen should be like what? The first character could be anything from A to Z. So I'll say A to Z like this. So if you write A to Z in brackets, you are defining a pattern, which means it will be any character from A to Z, nothing else. And second character will also be like this. Third will also be like this. Fourth, fifth. So first character will be A to Z. Second will be A to Z. Third will be A to Z. Fourth and fifth. How will I write for the sixth one? I'll write 0 to 9. It could be any number from 0 to 9. So I'll write it four times. And then again A to Z. So this is how I'll create my table. And I'll close the bracket for the columns. My table is created. Now, right now I have not inserted any record. Let's insert data into my table. So let's say name is A, salary is 100, and let's try to store a valid PAN. Is this a valid PAN number? Yes. So this is inserted, right? Let's try to insert something which is not a valid PAN number. So second character has to be an alphabet, but I'm trying to store any other character, say hyphen. Will this be allowed? It says it's not allowed because my check constraint is violated. I'll take a pause here to see if you guys have any questions.
Yes, sir. We have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
First one is asked by Mr. Shiva. He is asking, what is the difference between MySQL and SQL Server?
Okay. So Shiva, as I said, right? So MySQL is an open source RDBMS, right? So it's like you buy a phone from Samsung and you buy a phone from say iPhone, right? It's like two different products, but both are phones, smartphones. So similarly, SQL Server is an RDBMS. MySQL is also an RDBMS. SQL Server is built and developed by Microsoft. MySQL is now owned by Oracle. Both are RDBMS. The big difference is SQL Server is licensed. If you want to use SQL Server, you have to pay licensing fee to Microsoft. If you want to use MySQL Community Edition, it's free of cost. Go to the site of Oracle, download it, use it. No one is going to ask you for any dollars. That's the biggest difference. Features wise, they all support RDBMS, transactions, and everything. But yes, if you ask me which of the two has advanced features and more reliability, I'll go with SQL Server. But it comes with a cost. Okay. What is the second question, Preeti?
Okay, Priyansh is asking, can you define isolation and duration of ACID, please?
Yeah, yeah. So, what is isolation? I'm sure you all would have studied operating system in your college time if you have done engineering. So, in college, you would have studied the dining table problem, fork and knife, right? So, if you're sitting on the dining table, it is assumed that you will pick up both fork and knife together only if they're available, right? The same thing happens in isolation of database as well, where no two sessions or no two users can update the same data at the same time. And it is implemented by using the concept of logs. For example, if I'm trying to update the salary of employee ID 1 from 100 to 200, and at the same time, Preeti wants to update the salary of employee ID 1 from 100 to 300, whichever request go to the RDMS first, that person will take a lock on that row, and the other person, say my request goes to the RDMS first, I'll take the lock on that row and I'll update it. And Preeti will be waiting for that lock to be released, right? Because she cannot take the lock at the same time. When will the lock be released? Once my update is done and I'll do commit or rollback, then that lock will be released. And this property of transaction is called as isolation. What is durability? As I said, right? In RDBMS, I store data. So now this data is stored in my RDBMS, right? Now this data will remain in the RDBMS even if I restart my laptop, right? How does this happens? All RDBMS store the data into a non-volatile storage. If I right click on this database, go to properties and go to files, I see my data file is stored on the disk on this path here. So if I go to this path, you'll see SQL Server is also storing the data on a data file here. You see that data file coming up here? So this is my data file of my SQL Server. So even if I restart my SQL Server and if I log into my SQL Server again, I will be able to see this data still present in my table. Okay. Any other questions, Preeti?
Actually, there are so many questions.
Yeah, I could figure it out, right? So shall I continue and then maybe towards the end we can interact with the participants directly, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And guys, I would like to request one thing. Please write all the questions in a Q&A tab. They are writing it on a chat, so there might be possibility that we missed that. So please, guys, write all the question in Q&A tab.
Okay. So we just saw a demo of check constraint on how we can use a check constraint to implement in real time how a PAN number column will be created, right? So the end user can only insert a valid PAN number. Similarly, we have one more constraint which is called as foreign key constraint. So in the foreign key constraint is like a parent-child relationship. also called as the referential integrity constraint, which means you have a parent table and a child table. A value in the child table will be allowed only if the value is present in the parent table. Okay. And the column that you are referencing in the foreign key should be defined as a primary key or a unique key in the parent table. Okay. Let me do a demo for you. So I'm creating a parent table here. Say department is my parent table here. I'm defining department ID as my primary key, which means department ID has to be unique, and department name as my normal column. I'm going to create an employee table as a child table here. Which has only three columns: employee ID, employee name, and say department ID. And department ID is actually referencing my parent table. So I'm creating a foreign key here. So this is referencing my parent table. Okay. Now in the child table, I cannot have any department unless until that department is already inserted in which table? Department table. So if I try to insert this department, say department ID 1, I'll get an error. Right? Fails as department ID 1 is not yet inserted in department table. But if I first insert this one in department table, so I'm going to insert this in my department table. Now if I run the same command again, this will work. Make sense? Just give me 1 minute. Make sense, team? Okay. So why do we need foreign keys, right? Let's understand that. What is the constraint? It's a restriction to enforce correctness and completeness of your data. Okay. And what do you mean by that? So in this case, if I don't have a foreign key and if I allow my end user to insert a department which does not exist, essentially what does it mean? It's like corruption, right? Will you have an employee working in a department which does not exist? Say my company has only three departments: HR, IT, and finance. And now having employees who are saying that they're working in, say, some electricity department, which I don't even have. It's a corruption, right? It's an incorrectness of my data. You are enforcing correctness of data by ensuring that your employee works only in a department which exists. Okay. And then in SQL Server also, we can define default values of a column. So if you don't provide explicitly a value to a column, you can use default value. Automatically, the value of that column will be taken from the default value. Now let's understand quickly what is structured query language. So in structured query language, we have 5 types of commands. We have DDL command, which is data definition language, through which we can create a table or drop a table or change the existing table using alter command. Okay. So as you can see, create, drop, and alter, this commands only changes the definition of your data. They don't actually manipulate any data. When you're actually manipulating any data, those commands fall under the category of data manipulation language, which is insert, update, delete. Then we have DCL, which is data control language. As I said, right, all the RDBMS are highly secure. You can only access your data only if you have permissions to access your data. To give anyone permission to read or write your data, the command is grant. And if, say, someone is leaving your company and they're leaving your team, you want to take the permission back, the command to take the permission back is revoke. So grant is used to give the permissions, revoke is used to take the permission back. Then we have TCL, which is transaction control language. So as I said, when you are running a transaction, you either have an option whether you want to commit or you want to do a rollback. Commit means the changes will become permanent. Rollback means you can undo the changes. And the last command is data read language. So data read language is nothing but your select command. Once you have stored the data, then we can basically use the select command to read your data. Okay. So select command, as I said, right, it's used to fetch data from the tables. The basic syntax of select is select star from table name. Here star means all columns. And by default, if you are not writing the where clause, you will get all the rows. And this example that I showed you, right? Here, I'm selecting this row. I get all the rows and all the columns. See this? And I have only one row. That's why I'm getting only one row. If you want to fetch specific columns, write specific column names like this. You get only specific columns. Okay. Then we have operators that you can use in SQL query. So operators like less than, greater than, not equal to, these are all the different operators that you can use in a SQL query. Okay. We'll go through some of them as then when we see the real examples. For example, I can show you one or two things, right? So I want to get only where eid equal to 1. So I'll get it like this. Okay. What if I say give me where eid is not equal to 1? I can say not equal to 1 like this. No, I'll not get any row because I don't have any row where eid is not 1. So these are called as operators. So in SQL Server, when you connect to SQL Server, you connect to your SQL Server instance. And your instance could be a named instance or a default instance. In case of a default instance, the name of your instance name is your host name itself. How to get the host name on your machine? If you open a command prompt, so I'm opening a command prompt, and if I type their name, host name, I get the name of my machine. This is my host name. So if you have installed a default instance of SQL Server, your instance name will be your host name like this. In case of a named instance, it will be host name slash name of the instance. And every instance of SQL Server has two types of databases. One is a system database, second is a user database. And each database will have schemas, and schemas will have tables and indexes. So if I show you here, you see my system database. This is my instance name. It's a named instance, host name slash name of the instance. Name of the instance is SQL Express. And this is my name of the host. It has system databases. You see master, model, tempdb, and MSDB. And then these are my user databases. Each user databases will have schemas. The default schema in SQL Server is DBO. Where can you see this? If you go to security, if you go to schemas, you will see a schema called as DBO. And because this is the default schema, all my table names are created inside DBO schema. You see all my table names under DBO. Okay. In SQL Server, we can use top clause to get top rows. For example, let me get some other table here. So I'm going to select from the EMP table. So if I do select star from EMP table, it gives me a lot of rows. Is it giving me a lot of rows? 1 lakh rows. Now, if I don't want all the 1 lakh rows, I just want to see some sample data, I can do top 10. What will this query do? It just give me the top 10 rows from the table. Okay. But if you say top 10 percentage, it will give me how many rows? 1 lakh rows are there. So 10% of 1 lakh will be 10,000. Okay. So top 10, if you don't write percentage, that will give me exactly that many number of rows. If you say percentage, it will be the 10% of the total number of rows. Okay. Now we have set operators in SQL. So in set operators, we have 4 set operators. We have union, union all, intersect, and except. Consider we have two sets, set A, which has elements 1, 2, 3, and set B, which has elements 3, 4, 5. In case of union, it gives me only the unique elements. It will remove the duplicate elements. So A union B will give me only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. B union A will also give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Union all does not remove duplicates. So it'll give me all the elements as is. So I'll get 1, 2, 3 from A and 3, 4, 5 from B. Similarly, B union A, first read the elements of B, which is 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3. Intersect gives me the common elements. So common elements means A intersect B, the only common element between the two sets are what? 3. Same way B intersect A, common element between B and A is again 3. What is A except B? Elements of A which are not in B. So which all elements of A are there which are not in B? 1, comma 2, because 3 is present in B as well. Same way, what is B except A? 4, comma 5, because 4 and 5 are present in B and not in A. Let me see if I already have this tables and I can quickly show it to you. You see my table A and table B. Now, if I perform union between the two, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only the unique elements. If I do union all, I'll get all the elements as is 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. If I do intersect, I'll get only the common ones, which is 3. If I do except, I'll get elements of A which are not in B, which is 1, comma 2. So these are called as set queries. Okay, when you have two different data sets and you want to find out the common elements, all the combination of both, it's like a Venn diagram that you've studied in your 10th class, right? When you have two circles which are overlapping with each other a little bit, then you draw the leftmost part, which is like except, the common part is your intersect, and all the part is union all, right? Joins, again, very important concept of RDBMS. So joins are used to retrieve columns from multiple tables in the same query. We have cross join, equi-join. Equi-joins again of two types, inner join and outer join. Outer joins are of three types: left outer join, right outer join, and full outer join. And then we have non-equi joins. We'll go through each type of join one by one. Okay. So let's go through the cross join. Consider we have two tables, table T1 and table T2. In table T1, we have two columns, C1 and C2, and T2 also has two columns, C1 and C3. The rows in table T1 are what? 1A, 2B, and 3C. And T2, we have 3X, 4Y, and 5Z. So now, when I perform a cross join between these two tables, it basically means your table T1 will be joined with table T2 without any condition, which means every row of T1 will be joined with every row of T2. So essentially, your 1A will be joined with 3x, 4y, 5z. 2B will be joined again with 3x, 4y, 5z. 3C will also be joined with 3x, 4y, 5z. So essentially in the output, I'll get 9 rows in the cross join between these two tables. Let me show it to you. How do you perform a cross join? So you write cross join T2 and I'll get 9 rows. Make sense? Okay. Now this is your new syntax of join, also called as ANSI standard syntax. In the old syntax, to perform a cross join, you don't have to write the word cross join. Simply put a comma. Simply put a comma and will perform a cross join for you. So it is recommended that you use the new syntax of joins because old syntax may become deprecated in the new versions of SQL Server. But in the current version, both the syntax works. Preeti, what do you think? Do we need to take any questions or keep going?
So, whatever you prefer, sir.
Yeah, because if you take the question that let's do this. Maybe we continue with the session for another 40-45 minutes, and then we take a pause, we discuss the question, and then we can answer those questions
Okay,
so
okay.
that people feel engaged as well. Okay. So this is cross join, right? So again, summarizing cross join, we join the two tables without any conditions. Every row of one table will be joined with every row of the other table. And if your T1 has X rows and T2 has Y rows, the final output will give you X multiplied by Y rows. Then comes the first type of equijoin, which is inner join. So in inner join, we join the two tables based on some equality condition. And inner join returns only those rows which satisfy my condition. So assume I'm joining the table T1 with table 2 based on the condition C1 of T1 should match with C1 of T2, right? So the only row which will match is 3C and 3X because 3 is matching here. 1 is not present here, 2 is not present here. So in this T1 and T2, if I perform an inner join based on T1.C1 equal to T2.C1, I'll get only one row in the output. Let me show that to you quickly using both old syntax and new syntax. So in the new syntax, I'll write the word inner here and I have to write the joining condition. The joining condition I'm going to write like this with on clause. So the moment I write this, I get only one row. In fact, even if you don't write the word inner, it by default does only inner join. Okay. And the old syntax, you don't write the word join and the joining condition is written in the where clause. This is also like a inner join. I'll just take a pause here for 15 seconds, see the three different ways of doing inner join. All the three queries gives me the same output. It's just different ways of doing inner join in SQL. And if required, I can share the slides in this query as well, right? Let me save the query file. I can share the query file also with Preeti and she can circulate this to you guys if possible. Okay. And I can share the slides as well. So the second type of equijoin is actually an outer join. And in outer join, as I said, we have three types of joins: left outer join, right outer join, and full outer join. In left outer join, we again join the two tables based on some equality condition, but we get the matching row. Along with the matching row, we get the leftover rows from the left table. So in this case, when I'm saying T1 left join T2, left table is my T1 and the right table is T2. So I get the matching row, which is 3x and 3y, 3c and 3x. But in the left table, I have two more rows which were not matched, 1 and 2b. I'll get this 1a and 2b also in the output. So in the left table, left join, I'll get all the rows from the left table essentially. And you can perform the left join only using the new syntax. You cannot use old syntax for left join. So I just write the word left join here. And you see I get three rows. One row which is the matching row and the other two rows which are the leftover rows from the left table. The other two rows are the leftover rows from the left table. So this is the query that I have used to perform left join. Have a look at the query in the output. Similarly, in the right join, we get the matching rows and all the leftover rows from the right table. So I'll get 3c and 3x. Leftover rows from the right table are 4y and 5z. So if I have to do a left join, I'll just write the word right here, right join, and I'll get the matching row, which is 3c and 3x, and the leftover from the right table. Make sense? The next type of join is a full outer join. In full outer join, we'll get the matching row, we'll get leftover from the left and leftover from the right. One matching row, two leftover from the left, and two right leftover from the right. So I'll get five rows in the full outer join. So let's write a query for doing a full outer join. We'll do full outer join and I'll get five rows here. See, these two rows are the left over from the left. This is my matching row, and two rows are left over from the right. So full outer join gives me 5 rows. Okay. Then in SQL, we can do a lot of aggregate functions because SQL is used for data analysis, right? So and you need to have aggregate functions so that you can analyze your data. The commonly used functions are count. Count can be used in two ways. We can have count with the number of rows in the table irrespective of whether the value is null or not. Preeti, you guys can still hear me, right? I can see my video is frozen. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
But some of my video is frozen, but I'll continue.
Yeah.
So the count of column, it actually counts only the not null values in that column. So if you have a column which has null values and you're doing count on that column, it will not count the null values. Sum, as the name says, it is the addition of all the records in that column. Max will give me the max value from the data. Min will give me the minimum value. Average will give me the average. Var will give me the variance. And standard deviation will give me the standard deviation. Let's do some hands-on exercises here. Say I have my, let's take some table. Let's take sales table. Let's see what data we have in the sales table. So in the sales table, I have sales ID, prod ID, quantity, right? So if I do a count star, it will give me the count of number of rows. As you can see, it is 10,000. So it will directly give me 10,000 here, right? But if I do give me the sum of all the quantity sold, I can do sum of quantity, right? So I've sold almost like 50 million. Yeah, 50 million quantities of my products. If I want average quantity, I can get the average. On an average, I'm selling 5,000 quantities. Similarly, I can do min and I can do max. I can do both together as well, right? I don't need to do it separately. So just tell me what is the minimum quantity I've sold and what is the maximum quantity I've sold. Okay. So this is how I can use all my aggregate functions in SQL.
So, guys, I think sir is facing some kind of network issue. He will be back. Till then, I would like to request you guys, if you have any like question, please write it down in our Q&A tab. And people, those who are asking related to recording links. So guys, I have already shared the recording link, and I will share once again with you. And or else you can just share, just go on YouTube on link or LinkedIn, just share search Shine.com. There you will find all these every recorded session. Yeah, Abhijit, I will let me share, huh? Just give me a minute. Abhijit, I have shared the recorded link. Yeah, sir is here.
If something went wrong and Zoom kicked me out, can you guys hear me?
No worries. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay. Let me start again. So I was talking about the joins. Sorry, aggregate functions, right? So I showed you how we can basically use SQL. Preeti, my screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Perfect. So I can perform any type of aggregate functions, right? And those aggregate functions becomes very handy in performing the data analysis, right? So you can perform any type of data analysis, whatever you can think of is all possible in SQL. Next is group by clause. So we just know what we saw was overall aggregation, total quantity, average of overall, min of overall. But what if I want, say, product wise average quantity, date wise, month wise? I can use a group by clause. Let me show that to you. So when I ran this command in the sales table, what do I have? I have quantity based on what? Product ID. So what if I want to know the total quantity sold by product ID? I can use a group by clause. So I want the product ID along with the total quantity. Because I need this aggregation to be done by product ID, I need to compulsorily use one clause called as group by. So I have to say group by product ID. Now this query will give me product wise total quantity. Can you see in the output I'm getting product wise total quantity now? And as you can see, when I'm doing a sum, my column name is coming as no column name because I've applied an aggregate function on this. So if you want in the output, you want to see a proper column name, you can always give a column alias. How can you give column alias? Just type whatever name you want. I can say product total quantity, right? So now you're seeing the product ID and the total quantity. Okay. Same way, I have two tables, employee and department. So I can join the employee table and department table based on department ID. And I want department wise total salary. So I can give an alias here, total salary, and I can do group by department name. So this query will give me department wise total salary. This query will give me department wise total salary. Finance is this much, HR is this much, and IT is this much. So I can use a group by clause to do the aggregation based on any column or any group of columns. So this is my group by clause. Having clause, right? I can use the where clause to apply filters on non-aggregate columns. If you have aggregate column, then you want to apply filter on aggregate columns, you have to use having clause. So having clause is used to perform filters on aggregate columns like count, sum, max, and others. So if I don't want to see all the products here, see this, these are all my products, right? Say I want to see only those products where the total quantity sold is greater than some number. Say let's take 4,99,000. Okay. So now instead of me getting all the 100 products, I'll get only limited products. Only 52 products have quantity sold more than 4,99,000. Make sense on how I'm able to use the having clause? Just have a look at this query and see if it makes sense or not. Clear? Then we have very interesting topic called as ranking functions. So ranking functions are also called as windowing functions, category of analytical functions in SQL, which are used to assign ranks in sequential order to your data set. What are ranking functions? They're used to assign ranks in sequential order to your data set. The ranking functions can take two different parameters. One is partition by clause. It's an optional parameter. You give it only if you want to use it. And then the second parameter is order by clause, which is a mandatory parameter. Okay. Now ranking functions can be used in the select query only in two places. Either they can be used in the column list where you're defining the column list, or that can be used in order by clause. You cannot use them in the where clause, group by clause, or having clause. There are three ranking functions that we are going to see shortly: row number, rank, and dense rank. All the three functions can be used to generate ranks. let me open up an Excel file at my end. PD, is the Excel file visible on my end?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So team, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some sample data set to explain all the three ranking functions. So I'm taking just 4 columns: employee ID, employee name, salary, and department ID. I'm just taking some sample data set. So I've just taken some sample data set with 7 rows, exactly like this. Now let's say I want to generate rank using the first function, which is row number. I'm generating rank using the first function, which is row number, and I'm only giving one parameter, which is the mandatory parameter, order by clause. I'm saying order it by salary descending. Order it by salary descending. Now, in my sample data set, which row has the highest salary? I can see I have two people with the highest salary, employee D2 and employee D4. Whichever it reads first will be given rank 1. Although 4 also has same salary, but still it will be given rank 2. This is how number works. Now the next one will get 3. Although 3 also has next high salary, but still it will be given 4. Then 5, then 6, and then 7. So row number, even if you have multiple employees with the same salary, they'll still be given a sequential unique number. Okay? Make sense? Now let's do the same thing using rank, the second function. Again, I'm only using the mandatory parameter, which is order by salary descending. Now rank will give same rank to the same value. So if I have two people on 200, both of them will be given rank 1. Both of them will be given rank 1. But now because I've got two people in rank 1, it will skip the next rank and the next value will be given rank 3. I have two people on 100, so both of them will be given rank 3. Now I have two people on rank 3, it will skip rank 4. Next will be given 5, 6, and 7. Make sense? So rank gives same rank to the same value, but if you have multiple people with the same rank, it will skip the next rank. Now let's do the same thing using the third function, which is dense rank. Order by salary descending. So I'm going to do the same thing using dense rank. Dense rank also gives same rank to the same value, but still doesn't skip the rank. So if I have two people on rank 1, the next value will still be given 2. Still next one will be given 3, 4, and 5. Hope you have understood now why we have 3 options. You can choose any one of them depending on your requirement. Okay. Either you can generate the ranks using row number, rank, or dense rank. It depends on you now. Now let's use the next parameter. So let's generate the rank using row number again. But this time I'm going to use the parameter partition by as well. So I'm saying partition by department ID and order by salary descending. Okay. So now let me collapse this a little bit so that you can see the full column header here. So I've said do the ranking within each department separately because it is partitioned by department ID. What it'll do, it will go to department ID 1, select only department ID 1, do the ranking here. Highest row gets 1, 2, 3, 4. So ranking is done within department ID 1. Then do the ranking in department ID 2. When it goes to department ID 2, the rank starts again from 1. So 1, 2, 3. Makes sense? So the ranking is done within each department separately starting from 1. Clear? Let me insert the same data and see if I already have this data inserted. So I have this table, employee rank, exact same data. You see this? Let me generate all the 3 ranks using the 3 functions. without partition by clause first. So row underscore number over order by salary descending RN. Let's do the same thing using rank and then dense rank. I'm going to run this. Look at this. Row number is going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Rank 1, 1, because I have two people on rank 1, skips rank 2. Next one is given rank 3. Because I have two people on rank 3, skips rank 4, 5, 6, 7 in rank. Let's call this as RNK and let's call this as DRNK. Now in the dense rank, you can see highest value gets 1, 1. Although I have two people on rank 1, still the next one gets rank 2. Although I have two people on rank 2, still the next one gets 3, 4, and 5. Data is sorted on salary. You see this? Irrespective of what department they belongs to. Make sense? Now if I generate the same thing with the partition by clause, let's see how it differs. So I've added partition by clause in all the three functions. Now my data is sorted on department ID first. See, I'm getting all the department ID ones and then twos. Within that, it is sorted on salary 100, 100, 70, 50, 200, 200, 60. Now my rank within department ID 1 is going from 1 to 3, 4 row number, and the rank is going like 1, 1, 3, 4, skipping that number. Dense rank is again going from 1, 1, 2, 3, no skipping of the numbers. Then within department ID 2, 1 to 3, 1, 1, 3, and 1, 1, 2. I'll take a pause here for a minute, see if you guys can read the query and see if it makes sense or not. You can do a lot of stuff using ranking functions. So I'll just pause here for 30 seconds.
Sir,
Yeah.
if you allow me like 1 minute, actually we have one session feedback form. So if you allow, so like I would like to launch that form. It will
Yeah,
not
go
take
ahead.
more than like a minute.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Guys, please, like I have launched a session feedback form. It will not take more than I think like 10 seconds. Please fill it out. It matters a lot to us. It helps us to come up with another exciting session. So please. Can you initiate the mail? So guys, please. Yeah, so we can start now.
Okay. You can still see my screen, right? The screen is visible. Preeti, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's see a practical example of this, right? Say I want to find out the top 5 earning employees from each department. So I'll join my employee table with department. And I want to see top 5 earning employees from each department. Which means I need to rank them by salaries within each department. So I'll use row number with over clause. Partition by will be on the department name. And order by will be salary descending. So this will rank them by each department. But this will give me all the rows, right? But as you can see, the ranking is done within finance. Highest salary gets 1, 2, 3, 4. Once it goes to HR, again the ranking will start from 1. You see the ranking has again started from 1. I'll just show you that the moment HR starts, the ranking starts from 1 again. See this? Okay. Now, how to get the top 5 only? What I can do is I can put all of this into an inline view or a CTE. How do you write a CTE query? You say with tab as, you define the query of the tab, and now for this tab you write a select query. You say select start from tab, where you can write RN less than equal to 5. Give you only top 5 from each department. So I need to write it on my that table, not this table. So I'll say with tab as. So I'm defining a tab, a query, and then I'm querying on my tab. So I get top 5 only from each department. So I'm getting 15 rows. Top 5 from finance, top 5 from HR, and top 5 from IT. So this is how you can basically perform a filter on the ranking functions by using a CTE query, which is common table expressions. Okay. Now, what is a CTE query? Last topic, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So CTE stands for common table expressions. Also called as with queries. So let me show you like a hello world example of a CTE. Say in CTE you define a with clause and you give some name. Say with ABC, I can give any name. As to write a select query. Here I'm writing only say one a hard-coded value. I'm giving column name as ID, and I'm saying select star from ABC. What will I get? I'll get 1. Value will be 1 and the column will be ID. Right? So this is what is defined. But the magic happens when we use recursive CTEs. What is a recursive CTE? A recursive CTE is a CTE which calls itself. Now, let's say I want to convert this CTE into a recursive CTE and I want to print numbers from 1 to 10. How can I do that? I can use my set operator and I can write here union all. I can say ID plus 1. So 1 becomes 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 plus 1. From where? From the CTE name, which is ABC. If I do only this much, it will go in the endless loop because I have not stopped the CTE. See this. So to exit from the loop, I can write a condition, so ID less than 10. Now it will print numbers from 1 to 10. So this is how you can do magic with recursive CTEs. Okay, you can do hierarchical queries, you can do bill of materials, you can run any complex query using recursive CTE. Let me show you one more example. Say I want to print first 10 numbers of Fibonacci series using a CTE. How will I do it? Watch. I'll say with fab as, I'll take 0 as my, say 1 as my current number, 0 as my previous number, and I'm just starting with my loop, which is say 1 as my I, which is like a loop. Okay. I'll do union all. My current number will become what? Current number will become num plus previous number in the loop. My previous number will become my current number and I will become I plus 1. From where? From fab. And I'll continue till the time I is less than 10. So this will print the 10 numbers of my Fibonacci series. Am I getting 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8? This is my Fibonacci series. And you can just say Karnam if you don't want to show everything. So this is giving me my 10 numbers of Fibonacci. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55. So you can do magic with your recursive CTEs. Okay. Preeti, I'll take a pause here. Instead of me continuing, let's focus more on answering the questions because I see a lot of people have a lot of questions. So let's spend some time interacting with them. Can we open their audios as well so that they can talk and ask, or it will all be Q&A only?
No, sir, they can write their questions only.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think we can start with the questions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So first question is Dipraj is asking, is no SQL and SQL Server also same as the way you just explained?
No. No SQL, as the name itself says, right? No SQL doesn't is not an RDBMS. It's a notation object SQL database. It supports JSON language, JSON format. It doesn't support SQL query. The advantage of NoSQL comes with a schema-less structure. In SQL, when I define the table, I have to define which column, what data type upfront before showing the data. But in NoSQL, you don't have to define the data type or the column names. You keep storing the data as it when it comes. Okay, so NoSQL is not an RDBMS and it does not support SQL query language.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So if you're comfortable, you can like switch on the camera.
Yeah, let me see if it can work.
Sanjay is asking, sir, which is better, no sequel or sequel?
So as I said, right, both of them have different purpose. Okay, so NoSQL is used when you want to have uh, schema-less data, right? Where you are not worried about which schema to use. You don't want to hard code your schema. But for all the transactional databases like your banking system, you'll always go with RDBMS SQL. But for website or for applications where you keep getting new data types, you will go with NoSQL data types.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Another question, Sushil is asking, can we store any geometry data in SQL?
Yes, SQL does support geometry data types. You can create data types for circle, rectangles, all those things are possible in SQL.
Okay, sir.
Even
Thank
data
you.
types like IP addresses, XML data types, JSON data types are all possible in SQL.
Yes. Chaitanya is asking, how do we load our JSON file to a SQL table?
Yeah. So in SQL, you can actually create a data type as blob, and you can create, when I say blob means nvarchar max. So in SQL Server, you have a data type called as nvarchar max, and you can basically create a check constraint saying that is JSON is true or not. Once you define that constraint, that column will only allow a valid JSON.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Actually, we have so many questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Another question is MySQL, PostgreSQL, and SQL Server all are equal or not?
No,
If
as I said,
any,
right, assume they are different products from different companies, right? So that they are different products from different companies, but they are all RDBMS. They'll have different features, but the SQL query language will be same. So once you have learned the SQL query on, say, SQL Server, 95% of the syntax will remain same because they all have to follow ANSI standard. There is a company which has defined an ANSI standard of SQL. All RDBMS has to ensure that they follow that ANSI standard. But still, because those are all different implementation of RDBMS, there'll be 5% differences of the syntax here and there, but 95% of the syntax will remain same. No difference.
okay, sir, thank you. Another question, Vinay is asking, what are 1NF, 2NF, 3NF in
Yeah.
SQL?
Yeah. So what are 1NF, 2NF, and 3NF in SQL? These are basically normalization forms. Okay. So in SQL, when you define your tables, right, you have to define the tables basis the normalization, right? What is normalization? I'm just sharing my screen to quickly cover the normalization. Okay. So normalization is a technique to reduce the redundancy of data in your database. So through normalization, you basically win out, remove, or reduce the redundancy of your data in your database. How do you do that? You perform normalization by meeting the higher level of normalizations, right? So properly normalized database should have these properties. All the fields in all your tables should have only scalar values instead of a list of values. Should have no redundancy of data, minimal use of null values, and minimal loss of information. These are the four properties of a properly normalized database. And when you normalize your database, you go from first normal form, second normal form, third, and highest normal form is domain key normal form. So in all, we have 1, 2, 3, BCNF, fourth NF, fifth NF, domain key normal form, 7 normal forms. Okay. Highest normal form is domain key normal form, lowest normal form is first normal form. Any higher normal form is a subset of the lower normal form. So if your database is already in 3NF, it means it is already in 2NF and 3NF. May not be in fourth. If it is already in fourth NF, it is already in 3NF, 2NF, or 1NF. Okay. Just to quickly cover, I will not be able to cover all the normal forms. That's just to give you some examples, right? A table is considered to be in first NF if all the fields contain only scalar values. Look at this table, which is not in first NF. I have two columns, author name and author phone. In one single row, for this book ID and for this title, I have three authors of the book. All the three authors are stored in the same column and the same row using a comma separate list. And their phone numbers are also stored in the same row and same column as a comma separate list. If you store your data like this, like a list of values in the same column, then your table is not in first normal form. This is not allowed. How to make it in first normal form? You split this table into two tables. You take out author name and author phone number, create a separate table for ISBN and author name and author phone. And if you have multiple authors for the same book, store three rows. And their phone numbers are coming in three different rows. Now, once I've split that table into two different tables, now these two tables have become in first normal form. Make sense? Okay. What
Yes,
do you
sir.
think?
Thank you. Another question is, can we use rigorous pattern match in check constraints?
Yes. Regex is regular expression. What I showed you on the screen was regular expression only. So I didn't write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, everything, right? I just wrote A to Z, which is nothing like an regular expression. So when I did this PAN number, right, this is like a regular expression only in SQL Server. Okay. And in like operator, you can use percentage, which is a wildcard character, where any number of characters can come, and underscore means exactly one character. Yeah, go ahead, Preeti.
Yes, thank you. Another question is, disk file MDF slash IDF is encrypted. Do we need to use any other software to encrypt data
No.
at
As I said,
rest?
all RDBMS are secured. Secured means only users can access your data only through a SQL query language. You cannot open a backend data file and read the data. That will violate my security. In order to ensure that you are not bypassing the security, all the owners of the RDBMS will ensure that their backend data file is encrypted. So that even if someone log into my machine and they don't have access to SQL, they do have access to my disk, they should not be able to copy my data file and take the data away. I'll lose my trust. So they all are encrypted and you will not be able to read it. Although there will be some third party companies which can basically hack it and they are able to convert that encrypted data into readable form, but very rarely it is possible.
Thank you, sir. Another question is, how do I store in custom schema?
How do I store in custom schema?
Yes, custom schema.
Oh, you're saying that not the default schema, but a custom schema, right?
Yes.
So what we can do is I can create a new schema. Let me show you how to create a new schema. So right click on your schema. You can define your new schema, say S1. Okay. I'm creating a new schema S1. Once the schema is created, now I can create my tables in the schema. So, but I have to write the schema name in front of the table name. Say test. I'm creating a only one column. So this table is now created in which schema? S1 schema, like a custom schema. Okay. So if I refresh my tables, you will see this table coming up in my S1 schema. See this? Okay. Whenever I'm going to access this table, I have to write schema name dot table name. Okay. So if I'm inserting any values, I have to write S1 dot this. And when I'm selecting also, I have to write the schema name dot table name. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Another question is, can we use offset and rows or FETCH first and rows only in the place of top?
Yes, we can. We can do that. Let me show also to you. So if I want to do this, say if my table has a lot of rows, right? And I don't want to use top, I can say, okay, order by salary, descending, and fetch next 10 rows only. So how will we do this? I have to write first offset. So I'll say offset. So I can say 0 rows, which means just give me all the first 10 rows. So this give me the first 10. Now if I do fetch offset 10 and then fetch 10, which will give me the next 10 now. Okay, clear?
Yes, thank you. Ashish is asking, what are benefit of using custom schema?
So custom schema, say within the same database, I can create containers of my tables. Some tables can belong to finance schema, some tables can belong to HR schema, and I can control permissions. So say person ABC will be the owner of finance schema, person XYZ will be the owner of HR schema, right? So it gives you an option to implement more security within the same database. So you can control which people will have access to which schema and which tables.
Okay, sir, thank you. Another question, Navya is asking, what are triggers in SQL and when would you use them?
So triggers are basically a set of code that gets executed whenever you run any event. So trigger gets fired whenever a particular event occurs. So let me show that. My screen is still visible, right?
Yes, sir.
So trigger is basically a set of code which gets executed automatically whenever a specific event occurs. Your event could be a DDL event or a system event or a logon. So if say I'm writing a update command on EMP, I want to run a trigger that if any user is updating my EMP, I want to automatically capture which user is updating what data at what particular time and what value has been updated. So I can use a trigger for it. Okay. So typically DML triggers are used a lot in subtract and delete, and they're used for auditing purpose. You want to audit who is changing what data at what particular time. That can automatically be done using a trigger. Okay.
Yes, sir, thank you. Another question is, what are window function and how do they differ from aggregate functions?
So aggregate functions are the functions that I just showed you, right? Sum, max, min. When you perform an or clause with these functions, they become window functions. And you can actually control which rows you want to add or which rows you want to get the max from. And there is the clause called as rows between clause. When you're using a rows between clause in your aggregate function with an or clause, those type of functions become windowing functions. So a lot of times you use windowing functions with rows between clause to calculate running totals or to get the next value in the row or the previous value in the row. You can use windowing functions for all those things. And the other two common windowing functions are lead and lag, which are highly used.
Okay, sir, thank you. Another question is, sir, please explain practically the grant revoke commands.
Yeah. Say I'm creating a new user here. Okay. So create user, say test user. Okay. Let me. So I'm going to create a user. In SQL Server, and let's say I'm going to create a user without a login. Okay. And I want to grant this user a select permission on my AMP table. Okay. So how will I do that? I can grant. I can say grant select on EMP to which user? Test underscore user. Now this user will be able to read the data from my employee table. And if I want to take the permission back, I can say revoke select on EMP from test user. If I take the permission back, he'll not be able to read the data. This is how you run the grant commands and revoke command. And when I grant only select command, the user can only perform select. It cannot perform update, insert, or delete. Okay.
Okay, so thank you. Navina is asking difference between primary key and foreign key.
So as I said, right, primary key, you can only have unique values. Null values will not be allowed in the primary key. So primary key allows only unique values. Null values are not allowed in primary key. So primary key is basically unique plus not null. And one table can only have one primary key. Whereas a foreign key is like a parent child relationship. You create two tables, parent table, child table. Your child table refers to your parent table using some column. And the value in the child table, that column can only be possible if that particular value is present already in the parent table. So value is allowed in the child table only if the value is present in the parent table in case of a foreign key. I'll be sharing the slide so that you can get more details. Maybe one last question, Preeti, or you want to?
Yeah, let's take one last question. Sir, what is the exact question we supposed to answer for this SQL PAN validation example?
So through this pan, what I've shown you guys is basically how you can use a check constraint to control that you're only storing the valid pan numbers. So this table only allows valid PAN numbers. What is a valid PAN number? As I said, right? First five characters are alphabets, next four characters will be number, last character will be an alphabet again. So if you try to store something which is not a valid PAN number, like this, in this, the second character is not alphabet, it gives you an error. It will only allow you to store valid PAN numbers. So that's what we have seen using this check constraint, how we can basically implement a constraint using a check constraint to store only valid PAN numbers. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. But like before ending this session, any piece of advice you would like to share with all the freshers?
Yeah, sure. So, team, when I started almost 21 years back, I was like a mediocre in my college. I was not a topper. The only thing I started doing when I joined my first company, which was TCS, right? I got passionate with the technology, right? It's not that I learned 10 different technologies. If you ask me over the past 21 years, whatever growth I've got is just because of SQL. Okay. Over the past 21 years, I've done a lot of products, built a lot of data analytics tools, and my strength is SQL, right? So if I and my first job was in the banking domain where I used to get customer calls where they will tell me their problem and I used to tell them the query on the phone, right? And that time Zoom, Teams were not so much in use. So if they ask me, I have to literally tell them the query type, select, space, star, space, from, space, table. So that's how I developed that passion, right? And I've started learning things in detail, get to the root of your technology, right? How it internally works, how you can basically get to know each and every bits and pieces of it, right? That will make your career a lot more fast growing. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very, very
And
much
thanks
for.
everyone for joining the session. I know this is like a very overview, high level thing. We cannot cover everything in like 90 minutes, but I hope you guys have got some inputs and you can build on top of this. And thanks, Preeti, for coordinating this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for this session. We truly appreciate you taking your time and share your expertise with us. It's an absolute pleasure, like having you. And a big shout out to everyone who joined us today. We hope you enjoyed the session and took away some valuable insight. And if you'd like to revisit the session, or like to share it with your peers, recordings are available on our LinkedIn page and YouTube page also. So until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop learning. Wishing you all wonderful and happy weekend. And once again, thank you very much, sir. And guys, one last thing, like if you due to time constraint we can't take like much questions, but you guys can reach out to sir directly, right sir? Is it fine?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
if you guys have any query, you can directly reach out to sir, and you can I can share his LinkedIn ID also, sir. Is it fine?
Yeah, should be
Yeah.
fine.
Okay,
Okay.
guys. So I will
Thank you,
share his
everyone.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.